Today we're making a 24-hour Polish dough recipe. The whole total recipe consists of 600 milligrams of water, 900 grams of 00 flour, 6 grams of fresh yeast, and 27 grams of salt. The Polish recipe will consist of 500 grams of water, 540 grams of the 00 flour, and 6 grams of the fresh yeast. So let's go ahead and get started with the water. And we're just doing just regular tap water, nothing too special. A little warm, which is good. And so we'll go ahead and get this weighed out in our bowl here. Like I said, it's going to be 540 grams of water. So here's where we're at. Make sure that it's tared. And 540 grams. Let that go. 540 grams. So now we're going to go ahead and weigh out our fresh yeast, which we have here in the fridge. Go ahead and get that tin. And so like I said, it's six grams. And nice fresh yeast here. 3. Perfect. Let's close it back up. Get that sealed up tightly. Now we're going to go ahead and get this dissolved in the water. And just like that. Nice. And get that dissolved nicely in there. All right, perfect. So now at this point, we're going to go ahead and do our flour. Go ahead and dry my hands up. Again, it's 540 grams of the 00 flour, which I have here. So we'll go ahead and put this back on here and zero it out. And 540. And one more. Just a little more here. And so this is a Caputo 00 flour. It's the red. So this one's good for long fermentation. But like I said, we're only going to be doing a 24-hour fermentation on this one. And just like that, 540. So now get this mixed up. Once this is fully mixed, then we'll let it sit at room temp for an hour. And basically you just want to make sure it's all mixed up here. And it should be like a consistency of a batter, basically, is what we're looking for. So you could also at this point use a spatula, which we'll now use to kind of scrape everything down so that you have everything basically incorporated. And now everything's here. Alright, now again at this point we're going to go ahead and get it covered, and it's going to sit at room temp for 1 hour. We'll be back to see what it does at that point. Alright, so 1 hour now has passed, and as you can see, And so now at this point, we're gonna go ahead now and put it in the fridge. And again, it's gonna go in there for about 16 to 24 hours. 1 hour before I'm about to mix the dough, I will go ahead and remove it for about an hour at room temp. And then we'll add all the remaining flour and water and salt. So we'll see you then. Alrighty, so it now has been 24 hours. And so now let's go ahead and take a look at this dough. And as you can see, it has doubled in size. And let's take a look at the bubbles. You can see there's a lot of active bubbles in there. So yeah, it's definitely been working overnight. Now we'll go ahead and let this sit at room temp for an hour. And after that, we'll then make the dough. All right, 1 hour has now passed and the Polish is still doing pretty good. So now at this time, we could put it in a mixer, stand-up mixer if you have one, or if you want to do it by hand in a big bowl, that's also fine. But at this point, we're also going to add the remaining flour, water, and also the salt. The remaining water is going to be 60 milligrams or 60 grams here. We got 360 grams of flour, 00, or if you have all-purpose, also fine. And then here we have the salt, which is going to be 27 grams of salt. So we'll go ahead and put this in the bowl. And as you can see, it's super airy, which is really good. So we'll get this added. And then we'll mix the rest of the water in here, dissolve it, or somewhat get it dissolved. There we go. Get all that in there. All right. Then we'll get the water in here. Take it over here to the mixer. And like I said, we're just going to mix it until it is pretty dissolved or creamy. So we'll do that just for a couple minutes here. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and get that stopped, and then we're gonna go ahead, put the dough hook on and add the rest of the ingredients and basically start eating it. And now we'll go ahead and get the bread hook on. And you'll go ahead now and let's close this, and we're gonna add the rest of the flour on in there slowly while we're also mixing this. So like I said, we're going to go ahead and get this slowly in there until that's incorporated. And right now we're just starting at the slow speed, kind of get it all mixed in there. And I'll get the rest of the flour in now. And this is also could be done by eye to make, once it's smooth. So we'll get that there. And while that's going, we'll wait for a bit and then we'll salt it as well. And it shouldn't take too long, maybe 10 to 15 minutes or so before it's all fully incorporated and smooth. I'm gonna turn it off and get some of this flour off here. Get all this added. Don't want to waste any. All right. And then you can kind of see it is coming together now. So now we'll maybe start slowly adding some of the salt. You can use kosher salt, sea salt. And then now it is coming together. And so now we're going to kind of speed it up a little bit and work it out a little bit more. until everything it has pulled all the way from the sides. And so right now I do have it on speed 2. I could turn it up a little bit more if I choose to, but we'll just kind of let it go for a little bit longer until, like I said, it's all fully incorporated and there's nothing left on the sides. All right. So now we're going to kind of go ahead and take a look at it and possibly knead it by hand just a little bit until I feel that it's good. And so let's take that off. And if you do knead it by hand, then you want to make sure that you do get a little bit of flour on the counter. Just a little, not too much. And we'll kind of just scrape this in here. And if you wanted to get the rest of the flour off, you can. But yeah, you could just pretty much just knead it by hand. And it is pretty much already smooth. So, like I said, if you do this by hand, go and do that. And we'll just place it back in the bowl now and let it rest for about 10 to 15 minutes. And then we'll go ahead and knead the rest by hand. So let's cover that up. And we'll come back 10-15 minutes. All right, so now at this point it has rested for about 15 minutes. So we'll go ahead and now take it out of the bowl and we'll see how it is. And so it should be pretty well dehydrated. That's the point of letting it sit, for 15 minutes. So water and everything can absorb into the dough. So let's go ahead and take this out. Right, it's not sticky, but there you definitely feel some air in there, which is good. And so we'll just take all this out. And we'll just do and as you can see, it is definitely a lot smoother now. And so now at this point, we'll go ahead and let it sit for an hour at room temp covered. You could use plastic wrap, damp towel, whatever you choose. And then yeah, after that, the dough balls will be ready to be made. So let's go ahead and get this. So there's some air bubbles, so now go ahead and get it covered and sit at room temp for an hour before we then go ahead and ball it up, which we're going to be doing 260 grams each. So let's get that covered. Alright, and we'll be back in an hour. Alrighty, so 1 hour has now passed and the dough has been sitting at room temp for 1 hour. And so as you can see, it has kind of doubled or gotten bigger in size, which is good.